At the age of 10, I engaged in a nocturnal round of flashlight tag with a group of children from my community. For those unfamiliar with this pastime, it is identical to tag, but conducted under the cover of night. The individual designated as it is equipped with a flashlight and must call out the name of the person they illuminate with its beam to successfully tag them. That evening, the sky was quite overcast, and most residents had their drapes pulled, which created an ideal level of obscurity for concealment. The street where my home was situated was bordered by a substantial patch of forest that essentially served as the limit for our portion of the match. We were permitted to race through any yard and even cross the street to use other lawns, but we were strictly forbidden from taking refuge in the woods, as it was exceedingly difficult to locate anyone there, and one could easily stumble over branches or contract poison oak. Naturally, this regulation was often disregarded. When kids came too close to being caught, they would duck into bushes or dart behind a cluster of trees to avoid capture. I cannot recall who was it at that moment, but I was concealed in a backyard 2 houses away from my residence. The family residing there possessed a small playhouse for their daughter, a swing set, and a dog house, but no dog. I would regularly take cover in the dog house whenever I saw the probing beam of light drawing near. We who were trying to escape from the it person enjoyed startling each other in the darkness by appearing from out of nowhere and causing each other to shriek, thereby revealing our locations. I assumed they were aware of the it guy's whereabouts, but I grew complacent, lingering on the swing set. Without warning, an individual with a flashlight emerged from around the corner of the house and aimed it almost directly at me. I leaped up and fled toward the tree line. Upon reaching it, I paused in case they had seen me and were about to reprimand me for breaking the rules. The ray of light appeared to sweep over the swing set where I had been before moving toward me, but it did so without any sense of haste. I briefly considered that I might have attracted the notice of the property owner. Most people on the block were aware we were out playing, but you can never be certain that a person won't get anxious if you remain in their yard for an extended period. So I knelt in the grass and waited to see who it was. They cast the light directly onto my face, and I tried to shield it with my hand to prevent being identified. The truly unnerving part was that they remained completely silent, simply holding the light on me. "You got me," I exclaimed, hoping that if it was a homeowner, they would understand my confusion with the game's dagger. It was then that I became aware that 2 houses away, people were shouting, and the beam from the it guy's flashlight was chasing them. I rose to my feet and attempted to see the individual illuminating me. They just stood there, motionless and silent. I felt somewhat terrified. "If you'd prefer we not play in your yard, I'll go inform them it's off limits, all right?" The person began to advance toward me. I got a bad feeling, so I started heading for the edge of the lawn. The person continued to keep the light on me and approach, so I fled. When I glanced back, the individual with the flashlight was also running, and they were an adult, much larger and much quicker than I. I was scared now, unsure why this person was pursuing me. I was running toward the location of the other kids, but they were no longer there. It appeared to be just me and the person with the flashlight, so I veered right and slipped into the woods. I fell to the ground, rattling bushes and other objects to try and mislead the person, then crawled under a ring of dense brush and drew my knees up. I could see the flashlight inside the woods with me, searching. I could hear the individual's footsteps snapping twigs and crunching on pine needles. I had no idea what was happening and simply wanted to return to all the other children. Eventually, the flashlight moved further into the woods, and I crept out as quietly as a mouse back to the tree line, then stood up and sprinted toward the street. I was instantly tagged by the person who was it, but at that moment, I was indifferent. He loudly declared that I was now it, and I tried to tell him that another person with a flashlight was roaming the woods, but he darted into the dark, shouting about no tagbacks. "Don't go in the woods," I shouted, but no one replied. Naturally, anyone who heard me would have assumed I was warning them not to cheat at the game, but I was genuinely concerned about the person who was wandering in there, and so, since I now had a flashlight, I thought I should go and see if I could discover who that was, simply to ease my own mind. I returned to the rear of the house I had just come from, and a cluster of laughing figures scrambled out of sight into the adjacent yards. I paid them no mind and proceeded directly toward the trees. I couldn't spot any other light inside the woods, so I figured perhaps he had gone home. I didn't know if the individual was male or female, but I couldn't imagine a woman trudging through the woods at night, so I continued to play the game. Although I was anxious due to the persistent thought that someone was roaming the woods who did not appear to be participating in our game, I sprinted across the street and pursued people through the backyards there, but after a short time, I found the lots deserted and realized that they must have returned to the other side of the street. I ran back and was exploring the Beach family's backyard. Mrs. Beach had a clothesline with many sheets drying on it, and her daughter Charlotte, who was just 1 year my junior, liked to hide among the laundry and remain near her home in case she became too frightened of the dark. I believed I heard something at the border of the trees, so I went over and waved my flashlight into the woods. "Stay out of the woods," I recall shouting. I waved the flashlight back and forth a couple more times and saw a person in the distance. I kept the light on, whoever it was. They were about half a dozen yards into the woods and difficult to discern, but it appeared to me to be Charlotte. Charlotte had brown hair that her mother insisted on keeping at shoulder length. We always wore dark clothes for flashlight tag, and Charlotte enjoyed wearing a deep purple sweatshirt so it was typically simple to identify her once you had located her. "Charlotte, I see you," I called. She just stood there. I continued to shine the light on her and say her name, but she did not seem to stir. She remained there, partly concealed by the tree, and gazed at me. The space between us was sufficient that I could not tell if she was blinking, but her head was tilted at an angle as though she were peering around the trunk at me, with her mouth hanging slightly ajar. Every so often she would sort of twitch or writhe. It was a very unnerving type of motion. "Charlotte, come out of there," I yelled. "Everyone, Charlotte's it, but she won't come out of the woods." Several children, including my friend Dustin, appeared behind me and began to join in my shouts for Charlotte to emerge. "Do you see her?" I asked. "Yeah, she's over behind that tree," Dustin replied. "Charlotte, get over here," he said, but she would not approach. "Charlotte, are you okay? Get over here, dummy." Charlotte seemed to straighten up and then vanished behind the tree. We could hear motion, but it appeared to be receding rather than drawing closer. Dustin started yelling Charlotte's name again and plodding into the woods after her, but I seized him and handed him the flashlight to carry with him. I was frightened once more because the entire situation felt unreal. I proceeded to Charlotte's house and knocked until her father responded. "Mr. Beach, Charlotte won't come out of the woods and I'm concerned about her," I informed him. I was uncertain if he would take me seriously, but he rolled up his newspaper and vanished into a closet behind the door for a moment, reappearing with a massive flashlight connected to a car battery. "Show me her location," he instructed me, so I guided him to the woods and pointed to where I had seen her. "She was right there," I said, "by that tree." But she wouldn't come out. She was behaving as though she were ill or something. The other children kept calling Charlotte's name, and I could see Dustin's flashlight moving through the trees. Mr. Beach followed him. They searched the woods for a solid 15 to 20 minutes, and Mr. Beach began to get truly upset. We could hear him shouting very loudly for Charlotte and threatening her with all sorts of penalties if she didn't get back into the backyard immediately. By now the game had concluded, and we children simply stood there in the Beach's backyard among the sheets and observed. Dustin returned running from the bushes with a non-working flashlight. Eventually, Mr. Beach emerged from the woods. "The game is over, kids," he said. "Go back inside and ask your folks if they can assist me and bring some flashlights." We all hurried home. My father went out with 3 different flashlights. My mother proceeded to turn on all the lights in the back room and opened the drapes and shades to help light up the backyard. I sat on the sofa, completely distressed, and she eventually returned, embraced me, and sat with me as I recounted the person with the flashlight chasing me and how I thought Charlotte might have encountered him. Mr. Beach had gone inside and contacted the authorities to report a missing child. They brought massive lights and conducted a thorough sweep of the woods, but they did not locate her. My mother relayed what I had told her to my father, who then informed an officer, and I ended up providing a statement. They proceeded to the house 3 doors down and knocked, but the people who lived there had been sleeping and had no knowledge of who might have been in their backyard. The police inquired up and down the neighborhood, but no one claimed to know anything. The other end of the woods terminated at a back road, primarily used by logging trucks. They discovered Charlotte 2 days later on the edge of the logging road, at the bottom of an embankment that ended in a stream, shoved into a drain pipe. Her neck had been fractured, and she had seemingly been stabbed multiple times afterward. My parents would not tell me about it. They believed it would distress me. But Dustin informed me of all the specifics at school the following day. It was the most terrible event that had ever occurred in our town. The police cordoned off the logging road and spent months pursuing loggers and truckers who frequently used it. A curfew was in place for months, and we were instructed not to play flashlight tag any longer. We did not object. What leaves me trembling to this day is the memory of Charlotte's face, positioned behind the tree and looking at me. Sometimes I ponder if at that very instant I had been a witness to her demise, and I wonder if it had almost been my own.